Welcome to Impossible Bodies.
Welcome everybody. Welcome guests and audience. I'm looking forward to this panel as accessibility and inclusion, however limited these terms are because they stem from the so-called dominant able-bodied perspective, belong to the core values of our foundation, the Niet Normaal Foundation. So all the Niet Normaal projects have the radical diversity woven in their fabric, even when the topic seems to be something else, like robotics or big tech. We always tend to critically break with the tendency to label people before listening to what they have to say. This is a deliberate strategy we will talk about further, I hope, because it's the same with dancing and with everything. For now, let me introduce you and give you the floor. We will start this with a short clip of the work of each of you, and sometimes with a voiceover, or sometimes you have some sentences like, you know, to highlight something after that we show the clip. Welcome, Redo. We'll start with you. Is that correct? Yeah, oh, sorry. Redo, you have been living your passion and pursuing your dreams, and that was, of course, dancing. And Redo has literally lived the many ups and downs and trials and errors persons with physical and or other disabilities are used to endure throughout their lives. From a personal experience, I can tell that I have met the most resilient and strongest people within this community that is regarded as less abled, if not pitiful, from the privileged position of the so-called able-bodied. As a member of the international breakdance crew, the able-abilities, with the world's best differently abled dancers, Redo has been choreographing theatrical dance productions leading to many awards. The Ill-Abilities group also empowers the audience in creating a lesser segregated, disabled world through programs and workshops. Redo is a figurehead in the educational, oh yeah, I have it here, wait a minute, in the educational I Am No Label book with entertainment, science and sports stars from past and present, from Stevie Wonder, Lady Gaga, Stephen Hawking, Frida Kahlo, etc. We'll now see your clip, Redo. Sorry, just one moment. Just to tell, the clip is a breakdance from Redo, of which we made a hologram, which was translated in AR.
Showing a able-bodied video.
Okay, good. It's not going to be another video.
That's able-bodies.
That's
What's up, everyone?
abilities.
Yeah, nice to be in this panel. Thank you for the introduction, Ine. It's very nice. Yeah, so been in able-bodies since 2010, and we've been doing amazing work with the whole crew. Basically, it was formed in 2008 by a dancer named Luca Patuelli, but his dancer name is Lazy Legs. He's the one with the crutches from the video. And he had the idea of creating a super crew, like an all-star team of dancers who are differently abled. And in the breakdance community, um, um, everybody dances along with each other. So there's no segregation. There's people from different ages, there's people from different backgrounds, and then there's also people with different abilities. And we've been known each other from videos. Some of us have met each other during competitions. And then there was this idea of creating this super crew to show the world that anything in life is possible. And yeah, we just wanted to, at first wanted to dominate like the competition circuit. But then after like performing for the first time, we kind of realized the impact and the power that we had all together as a team when we were performing. And we could really like change perception of a lot of people. And because we were from that breakdancing community, we were just so used of like doing all these big explosive movements, and people, you know, we were known for doing that, but just the general audience has never seen something like that. And especially people with a different body do all those amazing tricks that they, you know, couldn't hold possible for that. So yeah, it's been nice. We've been touring. We're doing a lot of theater work, also still a lot of competitions, traveling all over the world, because we're 7 people, but these 7 people are from 6 different countries, from 5 different continents. So we're kind of like the United Nations of dance, as we call ourselves, or the Avengers of dance. And yeah, it's been great fun to just tour with these guys.
Very nice to see, and very good to see you again, Redo. Thank you for
Thank
this
you.
introduction. Next one is Joop Oonk. Joop, artist and choreographer, was already a guest at my former project Robot Love, where she staged some very interesting talks at the all-inclusive cyborg catwalks that we did. Joop has received awards for different projects concerning public accessibility, and she is the founding artistic director of Stichting Misiconi, an inclusive dance company with differently abled dancers in Rotterdam. Joop will be sharing a clip and voicing over, like telling while showing the clip what we are seeing. Thank you. Go ahead, Joop.
Thanks, Ine. So yeah, I'm voicing over first of all because the clip was in Dutch. So talking about accessibility, I unfortunately didn't have any subs. So you will see the 3 components of the company. And the first component is actually our, I have to wait a little bit. Yeah, it's the community. So we have many people dancing with us in their free time, spare time, and we organize lots of workshops, master classes. We have small projects going on. This was an open day. Then we have the company, and we do a lot of different kinds of work. So this was on the Spotfilm Festival, which is an outdoor festival in Amersfoort, and we created together with Oceans All Over a new piece about the existence. And we always use many different people, like from actors to singers. It's very mixed. And we have our center of expertise where we research within methods. So this year we did, for example, the Shift program, which is creating a new method together with Northern Ballet and Psycho Ballet de Matillon from Spain. And it was really nice to see like how we can work with our dancers to fulfill their potential. And it's really nice to also revisit your own way of working and see if it can you know, like get better in providing better material for everyone to work with. Yeah, so that's actually it. Furthermore, I also do personal projects, and currently I'm working on a project which is about the wheelchair in public space. And yeah, so much more to tell, but this is it.
It will come along as we have our talk or discussion further.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joop.
Thanks, Ine.
Next in line, Doris. So we're so happy to, is that correct? To have Doris here. Doris, in between rehearsals, I understand, so really happy to have you here. So Doris is an Austrian choreographer who received various awards and was named the Choreographer of the Year in the Tanz magazine 2018 and 2019. And award-winning was, of course, also Everybody Electric, the film, the dance, of course, of which we showed a film also in the Impossible Bodies experience. And this dance has been presented at the Venice Biennial and the Biennale of Sao Paulo in 2019. And we will now watch a short clip from Everybody Electric. Doris, you want to add something?
Yeah, I want to add that every time I see the images and I meet the people of Everybody Electric, I feel just so energized and realizing that the world has many bodies, and I think it's important that also the stage has many bodies. And that actually for me, it's not about making a project with people with physical disabilities. Of course, this is a fact. This is the life fact that people have within their houses, the body houses. But finally, for me, it was clear that I work together with people with special bodies and potential for dance and for movement and also for energy and ecstasy. So we were really dealing a lot with this relation between energy and form and with pleasure in each body. And I called it archaeology of energy. And we were with techno sound dealing a lot. We were bringing the sound into the bodies, into flesh and bones, and looking where pleasure rises and how pleasure can be articulated in dance forms. And I call these dance forms energetic icons. And no matter how a body looks like, everyone can produce energetic icons. So movements that function like coffee or battery or an accu system. And I was really interested in finding these movements with people who have really other bodies and potentials as I have. And if you would have asked me, I don't know, 6 years ago, if I would make projects with people who are in wheelchairs, living their lives also in wheelchairs, I would have never thought about it. It really came to me because I made once a solo with a shaking board. So I was dancing on a machine. It was like a table, and underneath there were washing machine motors, and I was riding this machine like crazy. And in this project, many people in wheelchairs were watching, and I got phone calls afterwards, and they asked me, "Well, Doris, I was watching your piece and I would have liked to ride your shaking board. And could we meet? And maybe you can make a workshop for us." And then I started to get in contact with people whose life is also based with and in machines. So this relationship between man and robotics and with, let's say, also body extensions started from my shaking board. And I like that all these collaborations that happen since then, it's just developing. So I don't make the plan in my head first. It felt that it's coming to me. And techno sound is a very interesting tool. It became an interesting tool to work with the idea of energy and flow and endless stream. So you can mix the sounds really like endlessly together as long as the DJ is not tired. And yes, and this energy, I think everybody can really digest and take as an input for movement and to question energy and form. And even I have worked with people in electric wheelchairs where some people might think, oh, the movements are so little. So I think the movements are actually seismic. So no matter how big or small a movement is, every movement can be seismic and can spread and can be contagious.
That's a more nice word. It can be contagious. Like that a lot. Doris, thank you so much, because it's a very strong work and we're so happy to have that in the exhibition as well. Just before I start asking some of the questions, I want to, for the general public, also make clear why we pay so much attention to all kinds of differently able-bodied people. It is because persons formerly known as people with disabilities, in our eyes, that was already with Robot Love and also with Impossible Bodies, are actually the early adopters. I mean, with Robot Love, we were talking about, you know, that of course for some people it was a matter of course that they love their companion species. Everything kind of, you know, that enables them, you know, to participate in the world in a better way without lesser obstacles, etc. You know, so that was for us a very logical way of bringing them in, and also including this all inclusive cyborg catwalk we had, and that actually was all inclusive because, of course, all persons who think they don't have a disability, it's just a matter of time, of course. Most of the people in the community know that, you know, that's the way. But now also with Impossible Bodies, for us that was a very important focus to show that this is kind of a fluid thing, you know. So an impossible body might be really impossible in certain circumstances, but is not in others. Yeah, I sometimes, for people, also make the comparison with a person with dyslexia. Yeah. Who you know, is in school and then somehow cannot cope if the letters are small or if there's, you know, there's not giving more time. But when that is different, you know, when there's just tiny little adjustments, you know, this person can kind of go along as easy as everybody else. You know, it's just, you know, and well, you of course know that also. It's just a matter of perception. Doris already kind of explained, and thank you for that, Doris, what is her inner motivation, you know, to not only, you know, to dance with all differences, which I think already that kind of gives a lot of energy, but also to advocate radical inclusion, if I may say so. And I would like to ask also Joop and Redo, you know, how you got to this point of also advocating this radical inclusion, and what kind of tactics that you have chosen to break the barriers or to break the kind of, you know, like the labeling and in society. Joop.
Oh, can you not ask Redo first?
oh, ask Redo
No,
first.
I'm joking. Well, I mean, when I my personal interest is really within the individual, within the people I work with. I've never really had an interest in perfectly trained ballet bodies. And I might also not have been in that position as a choreographer to actually work with those. So I think it's coming from both sides. But then I noticed that working with the individual gave me so much more artistic input that I kind of got addicted to it. Maybe likewise, as Doris just said. And addicted in a good way, that I really, you know, like I'm almost drawn into someone's brain or someone's coordination, or I'm like, what's in there? What can I do more? Or what can we do like differently, or in that sense? And I think in Misiconi, we work quite a lot as a group. So we together find we find a common language, and we're still also searching for that common language. So I find it really difficult to put it also somewhere, and I also notice that I find it difficult to label it in that way, or disability or not, or inclusion or whatever. And it's also really depending on the context where I am, how I label it. So I tend to do that a lot, to look at the context first, and then see where I can mold myself or the group in, or, you know, be flexible like we always are as artists. And then for myself, like my own project where I am now with the wheelchair as an object in public space, I see it as a really incredible object, which is designed, and there's so much technical technical aspects, craftsmanship included in that, which is so interesting. And I don't really see it as an object anymore. It's really my partner and my 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 body, you know. So in that way, it's becoming part of me. It's becoming part of even in thought, you know, like also in your mind. It's connected, and so it goes beyond the body even. Yeah. So
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Redo.
Yeah. You know, I think for me, I've always been labeled as somebody with a disability, but I've never saw myself as a person with a disability. And there was already from an early age. This was just the body that I was born into, and I didn't know anything else actually than just having to deal with it. But it was a lot from like outside noise that was trying to mm, label me in certain ways, or saying like, oh, you cannot do this, or be careful to do that. And it was only, I think, until I discovered dancing when I was about 14 years old, that I really discovered freedom in just being me and just finding freedom in movements. And I think that was so refreshing at that time. And if I did something, and it didn't matter if it was dance, but before dance, I was doing, you know, I was playing soccer, I was doing a lot of martial arts, but everything I did always in my whole life, I just wanted to give it like the full 100 or 200%. And then with dancing, you know, growing up in a dance style which is called breaking, where it's very competitive, and you have to be the best, you know, at what you're doing. And that motivated me too, to just be the best version of me. And just discovering that and just going insanely in training, I just wanted to be the best, and I just didn't want any label being put on me, or getting like easy props from something. I just wanted to really work, like let my work do the speaking and let my dancing do the speaking. So it was good for me to grow up in that environment, because people were not giving me like an easy time. I had to really work hard to get the results. And I think that was that really helped me just to become the dancer I was, and to not be yeah, feeling sorry for, you know. So yeah, it's a nice journey, and it still is. And I think it's just about really going all out and just going all directions, you know. And yeah.
It's also nice when I hear you talking. It's very clear that dance is a language which is kind of goes far beyond, you know, the kind of the limitations of words there, you know. So it's with all of you. I see this is what you give across, and it's kind of mind blowing also for the audience, you know. And that's therefore you don't need to kind of use all those words that are so much more difficult, really, you know, and words that kind of bring you back into a prison that actually doesn't exist in your world and in your dancing world. Is that correct? Is that Joop? Yeah.
Yeah, I just when you say that, I always compared my situation or the group, or with Piet-Jan Eijk once said, like, I have an aquarium with a lot of different fish, or a lot of exciting, you know, exotic fish, and that's a safe place to be and create. And I feel like that, you know, it's a really nice aquarium with all plants, you know, like all those colors. And yeah, and when you step out, it's just really, I don't know, like different worlds. Yeah.
I think also just the beauty about, and not only dance, but just art in general, it doesn't matter what your background is, you know. It's just about the beauty of art that should speak for itself. And I think, you know, it's about the quality of work that you deliver, and the beauty of movement just with dance. And you know, that beauty can be created in so many shapes and so many forms. And I think that is, you know, if we're speaking about integration just in general, I think that, you know, art is just a really nice form to do that.
Doris, you want to give a comment?
I was just thinking of a performer of Everybody Electric, Vera Rosner, and she said to me once that it was so great when she realized that water exists dance and she can dance, because first always she was looked at by doctors mainly, and the doctors always saw what's not functioning in her body. And suddenly in dance, it was only the question what functions in the body. Also that the audience, or that, the choreographer, or that we look at each other in the group, what is the potential? And I found a quite interesting question that rise up also from the group and from me, that what enables also a disability, and not only disables, what is also a possibility. And of course, the dance context is very cool for that question, because in everyday life, the everyday life, and this is so hard, what I realize when working with people who really have another body, that the life here is really based on two legs. And the life in the rehearsal studio is based on two legs if you want, or no leg if you want. So there is a liberation and a freedom, and you choose your parameters.
Just because because you use the word medical, I want to say something for the general audience here, because it is something that the disability community has been fighting against for several decades, and it is exactly this. It's the medical model of looking at persons. Yes, so and this medical model, and of course a doctor should do that. He should do, or she should look at a person and see what is broken and fix it. Yes, but this medical model we have internalized as if that is society. Well, of course, society has a large spectrum of differences. And because of that, of course, this community has put another model against that, which is the social model. It shows, that of course, really depending on the circumstances, people can kind of, live their full potential or not, So it's actually a work in progress for all countries to do a better job. And embrace all differences in human beings, and not just looking at it from that specific and narrow-minded medical model. Just to give a bit of a context of what we are talking about here. My next question really is the able-bodied perspective. This is why we call this the able-bodied perspective. It's kind of the position. Being privileged is actually very, very comparable with, for instance, the white male perspective, etc. So it's still dominant in our society, and it is much more persistent than privileges on the basis of race and gender. So we have now the Me Too and the Black Lives Matter movement. They raise a lot of attention, but it seems...
we also have We Shall Not Be Removed.
Exactly, that one. But it still seems to leave out, although I do see these moments as well, to leave out the disability activist completely, not completely, but, it kind of, takes more attention. So my question would be how to cope with this re-emerging phenomenon of superficially ticking the boxes in both the public sphere and social media. So how could we, or how could dance kind of, add to that?
I think just bringing it closer together, seeing people with different backgrounds, different abilities, different bodies in a different daylight. So you would normally, people that have no persons with disabilities in their close environment would never consider a person like that being on a stage performing. But if they can be, or they can be on TV and they can put in their strengths, the whole society would get a different view of people with disabilities. And I think just that whole view is still something that is being put behind. I mean, look at it in the media perspective. You always see people with disabilities talk about their disability, but you don't see somebody in their superpower, you know? And I think if you see people in their power, you forget about the background and you forget about all this disability, which is always focused on kind of the negative and the things that always the can't. But if we can switch the can't into the can, I think you create a more open society and you create a very much diverse society, which, you know, emphasis is more on the possibilities instead of the always the disabilities.
And open,
Sometimes,
diverse. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah. Well, sometimes I struggle with this thing also regarding the ticking the boxes, and because it's quite, yeah, it's important now to be inclusive and diverse, and I also see it happening with a differently cultural background, for example, people with different background. So sometimes I feel like, you know, it's not bad that things are in spotlight now, because sometimes you need to be a little bit more like, yeah, having this spotlight for a certain group of people in order then to let it spread, or to let it get more familiar, as Redo said. But also for the people who are knowing this field and who are in it for a long time, it can be also quite annoying. So I think it's a difficult question.
Well, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's always this and answer. Doris, you have something to say about this?
Yeah, just I really believe that the education system has to start. It really has to start in so many aspects in our life, and where accessibility is possible, and also, or let's say also the Ausstrahlung, the spirit of education, of universities, of, I don't know, where you can apply for a job. So what is the spirit of an enterprise or of a university? Because I guess some people just don't feel, touched by, it's just, there is no access that you even think about to study dance or to go somewhere and to do something.
You might not feel a connection, you mean?
Genau.
Yeah.
And I think I think really, and there I believe in the younger generation, I think that you really have to start when you are a child and you have a disability, that you have already the possibility to choose. And not only to put somewhere in this class, and this is the inclusive class, and this is the exclusive class, but that there are more mixed forms, and that everywhere are mixed forms possible.
Yeah.
The world itself is mixed. You know, we tend to forget that.
Yeah, but we also tend to forget that you know, like how the society is like kind of structured and set up, and also education. It also comes from a certain structure of, you know, like where the being poor is a big issue with, you know, getting your or finding your way towards art. Or so I think it's not only one thing we have to access, but also, like, if you look at the inclusion diamant from MoVC, you see like all those aspects, and I think all those aspects need to be included in order to actually really, you know, have that lift.
You mean that to look at the world from an intersectional perspective, so that kind of, you know, because that changes all the time. You know, sometimes it's the background, you know, that colors it. Other times it might be a disability. Other time it is your gender, etc. Of course, it's a
or your
building.
Environment where you grow
Exactly.
up in, or
Yeah.
So I agree with Doris that education is very important, because that's maybe the place where everyone comes, you know, where you meet and where you can exchange.
Yeah, and where you grow and develop.
Yeah,
what
also.
there's the power positions. I mean, that's I think the reality that I think it would be great to have access to all kinds of universities, even in the architecture of a university, of course, so that it's also clear that it's, I don't know this word barrierefrei, but that the space has to be accessible, of course, and the education has to be accessible.
Yeah.
But it demands both. What I thought I just want to add is again this in these very present times, that the COVID-19 time, that you know the people with disabilities and older people, they are called the risk group, the vulnerable group. And as I work also with people who are in this vulnerable group, they are a bit pissed with being all the time the vulnerables because they don't feel it. They don't feel it. And I think that's the same, that you cannot put all disabled people in one pot and say you all are now the vulnerables, and we don't ask you anymore if you are vulnerable, if you feel vulnerable.
It's the same.
I think that disability is also individuality.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
because there's so many different, like you said, I did an interview once and I got asked the question if I was more vulnerable to getting COVID-19. I was like,
Okay.
I'm probably more healthy than you.
Yeah, with all your training and
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Listen, I have my last question, because we also get questions from the public, so I want to give the space to them as well. Especially from the queer perspective, there have been attempts to break through the silos, or the different kind of barriers segregating different groups of concern. There are beautiful historical example, of course, but also quite recent. I saw just a week ago in the Centre Pompidou, not really, but digitally, but it was hosted by the Centre Pompidou, Paul Preciado. He's quite a famous trans person, and he invited people from the full spectrum of neurodiverse and diverse humanity, including transgenders, feminists, black futurists, and former, disabled cyborgs, etc., with whom he communicated in different ways also. That was really nice as well, because, as soon as you do that, there are, of course, immediately lots of other forms of communications there as well. Such a radical move, supported by an old-fashioned institution, like, for instance, the Centre Pompidou, needs applause, I think. Do you recognize this, and which other tendencies do you see happening around you that you really say we should welcome and on the right?
What's the question?
Yeah, the question is whether you recognize this, that there are other groups of concern, really, that do make this bridge, queer activists, and whether you recognize that also in your field, whether you sometimes are embraced by other people, other groups from different disciplines, really, that kind of, make that bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have an example, but I'm not sure if I completely understand it correctly. If I go back to the Spoffin festival, we were, by the artistic director, we were connected to Oceans All Over, and it's a really special group from Scotland. And in general, if you look into street theater art, so all the theater performances that are on the street, so that can be circus, it can be dance, it can be puppeteering, there's a lot, it's a really a broad scale of different art forms, but it's often not within the black box. So it's a different kind of, in that sense, outskirt maybe in the art scene, which is not programmed in black boxes, but on street festivals. And I felt that there was a connection because, you know, like we are outsiders. I often feel this, and we're not programmed often by programmers for black boxes, because I don't know why, but often not happening. But on festivals, we are welcome. So I feel that there's much more open-minded to what performance art could be, or, you know, like, and also because streets are more accessible maybe than theaters sometimes.
Redo?
Yeah, I mean, is it more about like the, how do you say it, like the perception about breaking that? Because that, like, for example, well, still, even with ill-ability, sometimes when people don't know, and even with my solo that I toured in the Netherlands, they still like kind of had, like, programmers were still a little bit like skeptic about what it is to put people with disabilities on a stage. And they thought, like, quality wise, is it acceptable? Can we do it?
Yeah,
So
it's
that
always
they
about
had,
quality.
yeah, they always have, there's something, you know, and then because like we're performing at like just like the highest level of dance, right? So they're still like super skeptical about that whole point. And even like I had this with my solo as well, that were still like, oh, okay, he's going into the theaters, but what is it? And then after now, and like after 2019 and doing the tour and winning an award, now they'll be like, oh, okay, now we know. Okay, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And have to break through a lot of barriers to reach that. And I wish things would be like a little bit more open, or people would tend to, you know, give it a platform or try to do it and break those barriers.
But also not forgetting that, like, the program, how it works in the Netherlands, is often like it's curating. Do you get enough audience members in your theater? So I think there are many other factors involved, but it's, as you say, Redo, it's completely insane that you have to win an award before you get programmed.
Yeah.
Like a normal, you know.
Yeah. And it's
Well,
always
so-
like they look at each other. So if one dares to do it, then the other one, you know, wants to do it too. But it takes a couple people with guts to do it.
How is that for you, Doris, in Germany?
So I'm based in Austria,
Oh, Austria. Yeah. Okay. Sure. You.
but at the moment I'm in Germany. Now, staying in this conversation of you both, I in this field of theater and how normal it is to present pieces with people with, for example, physical disabilities, I think it's important that special bodies don't need special festivals or special contexts. Because it once happened in the beginning of Everybody Electric that one programmer really loved the piece, but she said to me, I don't have the courage to program it in my regular program. I need a special context or a Schwerpunkt, a special focus to bring this piece in. And then I thought, as long as people still need special context, we have to do this work so much, because it doesn't need a special context. It should be programmed because it's a good piece and as a quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I think. And this question about, okay, do I feel activists around me or people who are really fighting or having a loud voice and standing for their bodies? I think not as a group. I see individuals doing this, but not not so much connections. Can also be that COVID-19 is not the best time to bring people together, of course. But this is what I can see from my personal view. Also, transgender people or people, they enter my work and they are there, but they're really there as individuals or as individual desires. And they also often feel alone, or let's say they feel in a moment or in their transition more alone, or they have a kind of group, but it's really an overview they have. That's what I can say personally from the people I know.
Okay, no, thank you. Listen, we still have 5 minutes, and we have a few questions from the audience. One important one is there's an anonymous who says, I find it's really important subject and absolutely inspiring. So how can I join to make these topics, disability, illability, more visible?
Share it on your Facebook page, your Instagram. I don't know, like share it with the world around you. Yeah, that's what I try to do. Not because of work, but also as a person, I try to share also Redo's work and others. Yeah, and Doris in the future.
Yeah.
There's another question. How do you think that digital technologies will influence or create new possibilities within the dance world?
Ooh, yeah, we're kind of in it now, right? In the whole digital
Well, yeah,
world and,
absolutely.
showing all these dance performances digitally.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know if for the rest, but for me, still the best way to experience dance is still in person without anything digital involved, because it's so powerful to hear a body in a space breathing, you know, and moving. I don't think anything digital can be, can be done with that. But I mean, it's maybe it's also it gives possibilities, right? To maybe incorporate it to have kind of nice projections. To you know, you can reach a bigger audience now with all these platforms, which is nice as well. But yeah, in terms of digitally, I know I'm more a fan of being in the theater or in the
Yeah,
stage.
but you did like what we have been needing to do,
Or
you know, in relation
I
to
know,
COVID. Yeah, so
no,
tell.
yeah, I know where you're going. Or yeah, that was really cool actually. That was the first time, and that was my involvement with Impossible Bodies, which has been amazing, is to create augmented reality version of a dance performance. Um, and you can basically see me perform in your living room, which is a really cool way of bringing dance to you know, a personal space. And it's something I never done before, and I think maybe that could be something, yeah, that is something that could be experienced. Exactly, that is something. AR and maybe also virtual reality, I have trust in that as well, to be in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a really cool way. Exactly. So go check out that AR performance and see if you like it, and see if it has future or potential for dance to be, yeah,
This is right.
involved into that game.
Yeah, very nice. Because actually, we started with making a hologram of you dancing. Can you tell? Because for many people, this is like awesome. They just see the end result, but they don't see how that happens.
Yeah, so we filmed a dance performance. I made it in front of a green screen, and it was very nice because you know, take all of that away, and suddenly I was like performing in an app, just doing all the movements in an app version, and it showed up in your living room, and you can follow me. You can just walk around. You can see different sides, and it's really cool to see it like in that way. I've never experienced it, and I actually never saw a dance being in an AR version. So it's, yeah, it was amazing to have this experience with Impossible Bodies.
Thank you. So I am going to wrap it up now. We will end with showing the clip again. We have a film of the AR. And before I end, and thank you for this wonderful contribution, Joop and Redo and Doris. I also want to tell the public that we will continue at in 15 minutes, so a 6:45, with another panel, which is thinking about posthumanism, so what that means. So I just wanted to announce that. And for everybody who's listening, and of course our guests, after the other talk, and then also, of course, Ali Eslami and Mamali Shafahi with Nerdfunk, really cool project. We will meet each other hopefully in the cantina for an after party, because that is what we have made in order for people to also digitally socialize. So thank you again, and we will end this session with a clip of Redo.